Welcome everyone to Love Story, and I am your host Yandea, and this is our final episode 7 of the series Love Before the Fall. And as you can see today, it's not just myself and Kesley and Janie. We have some other wonderful people joining us. I'm just gonna give a quick, minute for each of them to just say hi, introduce themselves however they want to, however they feel to, but I want you guys to know who's joining us today to discuss the flame between us, our final episode, episode 7. So let's start with Morgan.
Everyone. My name is Morgan O. Smith, and I'm a non-dual teacher, youth worker. Um, what else am I? Executive director of a nonprofit organization and co-founder of another organization, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And author of the book Bodhi and the Brain. Bodhi and the Brain.
Okay, let's move down. I'm gonna go to who we haven't heard from yet, right? Jonathan.
All right, my name is Jonathan. I'm a hypnotherapist, former therapist as well, former youth worker, author of the book Unleashing Mind Power, mindfulness teacher, and friend of Yandea.
Facts.
So,
Let's go across to Duane. We've had Duane on before, but Duane, for those who may not have seen that episode.
Hello everyone. My name is Duane, also known as Lighthouse. I am a artist, poet, singer. I am a author now of a book called Life Unleashed. It's a collection of poems. I also do a lot of work in mental health and also a lot of work with Yandea, who's, my favorite person ever. So we do a lot of good work together.
I love that. I love that, Duane. You're one of my favorite people too, very much. So Duane and I host the Come Let Us Reason Together podcast together every Thursday at 7:30-ish. Okay, at 7:30-ish. So and then let's go across to Mr. Russell, Mr. Janie. I'm kidding. Mr. Russell.
Hey everybody out there, Russell Bruce, and gosh, where do I start? I'll make it real quick. By trade, I'm an engineer. Uh, Hobbies, chef, podcast, show host, author, transformational coach, motivational speaker. Married to this beautiful lady right here next to me. Father. Oh gosh. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
That's a whole lot. And both any other fathers on here? Just raise your hand. Right? Okay. So right. And so we have, and obviously Janie, Kesley, and our moms, and Duane is without that responsibility so far.
Without that blessing.
Without that blessing. Yeah, that's right. But okay, so we're here and we are going to jump right into this topic. Let's see, the flame between us, right? The flame between us. And someone might be thinking, like, what exactly is this about, the flame between us? So we're going to talk a little bit about, as we have in all of our other episodes, we've talked about masculine and feminine, but what happens when the masculine and feminine interact with each other in the right way, right? What does that look like? What does it feel like? How are you able to maintain that flame, right? That spark, and we hear it, all the time. Oh, you have a new flame. That's what we call it, right? You got a new flame, or there's some spark between these people. So it's already there in our subconscious mind, some way, somehow. We think of when two people connect that have great chemistry, there's a nice fire, right? There's a nice fire. One that doesn't necessarily devour them, right? But it burns, right? It burns. And some of the things that that flame does is what we want to talk about, right? If it's burning, what is it burning, right? What is it What is it warming, right? So I wanna pose, well, let me say, I wanna first explore the energy of this sacred connection. And I'm gonna leave this open to whoever feels that they have something to share. I know it's a good bit of us on here, but if you feel that you have something to share about whatever I mentioned, just please go ahead. And if someone says something that triggers a thought, a memory, or whatever little thing you could add to it, please feel free to do that. So when we're looking at the energy between us, that sacred connection, I think I want to start with just a simple question. Who here has experienced that energy, that sacred connection between themselves and the masculine or feminine? And how does it differ from other connections? Like, what makes it sacred? What makes it, how can someone watching know this is that sacred thing? It's something about it must be distinct, right? And different. So how have you experienced that? And what is it like? Whoever wants to go first can.
I'll go first. So just really one word for me, it felt like home. That's it. Felt like home. That feeling of home where you belong or you are seen, or it just felt, there was nothing, it was effortless. It wasn't strenuous. It wasn't hard or difficult. And it was just natural. And it just produced that feeling of home for both of us, where we could just face the world and we didn't care about what was going on. Oh, really? That's happening in the world? Didn't even know. Oh, really? Oh, they're doing what? Oh, didn't even know that was happening, because we're with each other. That's all that matters. So that's to me, home captures that.
That's beautiful. I agree with that feeling for sure. Anyone else want to share what it feels like for them or felt like for them if they ever experienced that divine sacred energy?
Would say, oh, sorry, go ahead. I could wait.
Thanks. I'll carry on Jonathan's theme of a word, and my word would be expansive. So I just remember feeling when I first met my partner, it was like my aura, my energy, like everything about me in my own being felt expanded. It was like my cells were vibrating, right? Like my whole mind was blown wide open. And I think for both of us, just the growth that we had in the very beginning, but it hasn't stopped in the whole entire 3 years we've been together, from the vision that we individually have to the collective vision. It was like, there's no way 3 years ago that I would have imagined we'd be living in Colombia, we'd, have a family together, we'd be, working on a nonprofit, and the growth and the change that each of us have had, the word would be expansive. It's beyond what I ever could have imagined for my life.
Yeah. Okay, Morgan.
So far, I have to say I agree with both
Right.
individuals. Home expansion. I would add direct. This is at different levels, but I would say bliss, because of course I've experienced this physically, of course sexually, emotionally, mentally, metaphysically. So I would say different levels of bliss. If you're talking on a metaphysical level, it can get to the point where, even though we're talking about the heart expansion, it could be at the level where both hearts combine, and that becomes an expansion within itself. But it can blend to the point where you can't even notice, you can't even recognize the masculine or the feminine when the two blends together, in that amalgamation of that oneness.
Oh, well said. Well said. Well said. Let's hear from Janie, Russell. You guys have anything to share? You're the only ones on the screen that are beside each other.
Yeah. It's hard to go after all that because they covered it. But also, I would just add that it was very spiritual and mystical and unfolding. in the beginning, it was her birthday, and as a gift, based upon some of our conversations, I had given her the book Celestine Prophecy.
Love that.
In there was a lot of adventure and unfolding, but it just seems like shortly after that, it's like our life turned into this adventure, and it was like all the clues, and you had all of the, like 1111, 444 shown, like all these different things, and it was like just leading us to different clues and just deeper and deeper.
Yes, so I would add to that, it was an awakening, right? It was more of an awakening. It was like, you guys have done this before, and I need you to just keep following the nudges. And that's what we did. So we followed the nudges, and it was just this beautiful and beautiful unfolding, like every layer into the deepest layer, right? And then it is this very unifying oneness, because the two flames create the third entity, right? Which is the divine. And that's that recreation over and over and over and over again. So, and that's where we come back, is in the center, the divine, that third entity. So I would definitely say it's an awakening, because it was like we knew it, but we had to keep following the nudges for every layer to be unfolded.
I love that.
One more thing, Yandea, you had mentioned when you were asking a question, like what did it look like or feel like? And it's almost like this symphonic sound, right? It's like, I might come with the sax, and she's coming, or whatever. And then, individually, it just goes from noise to silence to, harmony, right?
Beautiful harmony, exactly, yeah.
And that's kind of, it's like beautiful music, right?
Beautiful dance until like two-stepping all the way. It's a journey. It's like I said, it's an unfolding, because you literally are unfolding every layer of each other until you get into that core, and you're like, wow, it's God to God.
I would add to, first of all, everything you guys said is just right. Like, amen. And I want to be like, right? When I'm hearing everybody talk, everything is so on point. And I was thinking, what else happened with that meeting? What else did I feel? And for me, it would be completion. Now, not complete as in like this person is now completing me as if I wasn't whole, but a sense of completion, like there was more of me to discover. And when this person came into my life, the love gave me it's like it gave me a feeling of safety to explore the corners of myself that I didn't go to alone, like when it was just without them, so there's no fear. Sometimes we could be afraid of our own selves, you know what I mean, and our own potential, our own light. And I find, like, when this person came along, my husband, when we met, it was the energy of self-exploration, more deeper, higher, wider, and I feel like I was able to finally find a real sense of wholeness. Like you can't know, right? Sometimes you think that you're whole until you realize there's something that was missing, and it only shows up when you find the thing that was missing. You don't even know that it wasn't there. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's kind of what it was like. And I think that that's what divine love does. Divine love brings you home, brings you right into the core of like who you are and all that you can be. And it doesn't take away from the other person. The other person doesn't take away from you. It's so different. Everything you guys have shared here, isn't it so different from what media is showing us, right? Like where people get lost rather than find themselves in the love, they get lost. They don't know who they are anymore. They definitely don't feel at home. You know what I mean? Like some of these words that we've shared here, expansion, some people feel like they've had to dampen their light dull their own light in order to exist in a relationship. So everything we've said here, which is from our own true experience, is so opposite to what we're seeing, displayed in some movies, on media, definitely social media. A lot of things we're seeing is very toxic, right? And people are labeling it love, right? So, have you experienced any toxic love? And obviously love in itself is not toxic, but was there ever a time in your life when you thought, I love this person, or this person loves me? And now that you've experienced what real love is, or doesn't have to be now, but at a point you're like, wait a minute, that's actually not love. Have any of you ever experienced in the time thinking that it was love from the person, or you loving the person, and now in contrast, you could say like, wow, that actually wasn't love? Have any of you experienced that? Or have you always known all the way like what love is?
I would say, for me, I've known love, right? So I would say that in past relationships, it's been a capacity issue, and unbalanced, unequal capacity, because people love, but everybody don't have the same capacity to love. And and that's why we wrote our book and called it Capacity to Love, because we are love. I think everybody here, every human being have a certain capacity to love, but it's not always equal. And you have to be able to recognize that and decide in love, hey, we're not equal in capacity. I wish you love. You can go find your love and let me go find the capacity that I need.
Can you talk a little bit more on what that looks like when two people meet and their capacities are different?
Okay, for example, if I have a capacity that's as wide as the ocean, okay, my love, I may be pouring into you, but it could be drowning for you, okay? So you may not know how to receive my love. You may not know how to be affectionate, to receive my affection, to receive my compassion, to receive my concern for you. It may be smothering, it may be drowning, right? That's my capacity. On the other hand, if your capacity is that of a teacup, you could be giving me all you have, but I'm still thirsting for more because I am as wide as the ocean. So it's not that you're not loving me. You're loving me to the depths that you have. So this is when we have to say we're just not in alignment. It's just not in alignment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Russell.
Going back to what you were saying, like the toxic part of it, right? So when it becomes toxic, the person with the teacup is trying to drain your gallon or your lake, your ocean. They're trying to drain it so that it leaks out to pull you down to their level so they don't lose you, or to get you closer to an equal playing field where they feel they have a better chance, instead of them working on themselves. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Don't poke holes in yours.
Yeah, because a person can only meet you to the depths that they've met themselves, right? So I think today we see a lot of people are having issues because it's similar to going to an apple tree to get lemons. It's just not there.
It's just not there. On that note, with what you guys are sharing, so many things passing through my mind, because when you talk about capacity, okay, so let's say for the people out there, they meet somebody, they're compatible in different ways, there's a little bit of a spark, there's a little bit, something's there, but one person is like the ocean and the other person's like the teacup. Have you found, and this is for everybody, have you experienced being the teacup? Have you ever experienced being the teacup and having someone else be the ocean, and having to decide, am I going to be toxic? Obviously, you don't think of it like that, but it is. Am I going to be toxic and try to make the person think that there's a problem with them giving so much, right? that's the poking holes, right? It's always going to be something like, whoa, you're like, that's too much. Like you're smothering. You're, we try to, instead of saying, I don't know how to receive, we now make it that it's the person's problem, right? So like they're too smothering, they're too this, to that. And so now that may cause that person to drop just to the place where they act the way that you want them to act, which makes you comfortable. But then they're not operating in their full capacity. Have you ever experienced being the teacup?
We're
right?
we're
Say it again.
We're oceans. We're oceans.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think what she was saying is in the past.
Yeah, no,
In the past.
I've always been the ocean. Always, yeah.
I think
Let's say,
go ahead, Morgan.
yeah, I would say I've experienced being on both ends. But there have been cases where I've been the teacup.
Yeah.
Someone's expressing a much more love than I'm willing to offer to that individual. And that could be for a number of reasons, because sometimes when you feel that you love a person, you love the idea of a person, not the actual person themselves. And when the person shows their truth, authentic self, that's when the teacup can show its true colors, right? Because that's not, I may not have been in it for that expansion. So that has happened. But there's a thing that should also be addressed, is that there are different stages of love, and there's also different stages of psychological levels of development. So a person could be at egocentric love while the other person could be at ethnocentric love. And if the person's at egocentric and the other person's at ethnocentric, there's going to be a problem there. Because if the person's at egocentric and the other person's at ethnocentric, the person who's egocentric is going to be toxic to the person who's ethnocentric. So that's going to be a problem. So when entering a relationship, or if you're just entering the earlier stages, you want to get a sense of where that person is at. Is that person at egocentric? Is that the person at ethnocentric? Is the person at world-centric? Or are they at cosmocentric? Because person at cosmocentric and person at egocentric can't be in the same rooms. So that's just something that people need to acknowledge when entering any type of doesn't even have to be romantic. It can even be business. Two people at different stages is going to affect the flow of things between two people or between two parties.
Listen, why did you do that? Because I'm gonna have to ask you, right? For the person, I'm being the person watching. So for the person watching, they're like, bro, what? How do I know? How can I, give me one trait? Okay, we have 4 people, because you said cosmic, ego,
Cosmic, world,
egocentric,
egocentric, and ethno.
Okay, so give me, I'm just out here. There's 4 guys who want to love on me, right? 4 guys want to love me. Let's say I'm Jonathan, you're laughing. I saw Jonathan laughing when I said that, right? But let's say I need to know, I'm not going to say what I am, but give me a characteristic that would let me know where each of these guys are at. Like, is there a trait, something that, how can someone know if this person is either or whatever?
It's behavior, it's trait, it's a number of things. So if a person's an egocentric, of course they're into themselves. They could be greedy, they could be selfish, they could be what's the other term? There are many different things that goes along with that, but the person is too much into themselves.
Right.
And that's going to be an issue. And that's a form of love. It's a love that everyone should have. Everyone should love themselves. Everyone should be into themselves to some level. But it can expand more than that. But some people will only stop at egocentric. Right. And then you have ethnocentric, and the ethnocentric is for the group. That person has love for a group of people. It could be her kids, it could be family, it could be race, it could be gender. It could be a number of things that falls to that category. If it's world-centric, that person has a love for people. It doesn't matter if people are at if it's a matter of class. What's the term? What do people say? Class, creed. What am I missing? But those categories. It doesn't matter of race, doesn't matter of gender, doesn't matter of ethnicity. None of those things matter at world-centric. You just love people as they are. And then, of course, you have cosmocentric, where someone may have a love for the entire universe. And these are at higher stages that only a few people are at. Maybe a small percentage, maybe 5% of the world's population is at. But those people, the world-centric people and the cosmocentric people, have a capacity of loving beyond that is something that's very difficult to imagine or comprehend. But a person at the egocentric stage cannot accept love at that stage. That's way too much. So, and it's not that it's the person's fault why they're at egocentric. There are many reasons why a person can be at egocentric, but one can move from one stage to another. Of course, most people stop at ethnocentric. They don't go past ethnocentric into the world-centric area or into the cosmocentric. So if two people are living together and one person's at one end and the other person's at the lower end, that's going to cause a lot of problems because when they're making decisions, one is coming from the perspective of me, me, and the other one's coming from the perspective, well, I have to look up for the community or I have to look up for the family and so on and so on. That's going to have an effect on the relationship as a whole.
Very good. That's very clear. I don't know if any of you have anything else you want to add to that, Jonathan?
Yeah, just when you mentioned traits, I know it brings me back to late teens, early 20s, and when I was just like what Morgan said, I was on both sides. I was a teacup, right? And one of the traits was the push and the pull. That's a key thing. I mean, if they get close, you pull away, type of thing. You know, some people love the chase. Some people, they're in it for the chase versus being in it for the actual receiving and giving of love. So that's a quality I would say watch out for. It's the games that people play, and they have their own reasons that you know they think are serving them. But I remember playing that game, and I remember that game being played on me. So I remember both sides, and the contrast is so wonderful because now I'm in it, looking at it from a whole different perspective, right? And like we say, me and my wife are like, why didn't we do this 20 years ago? Like, why didn't we? You know what I mean? You know how much time I wasted, but it's not wasted time, but the contrast is so interesting. Needing to experience that, the teacup, to experiencing this is wonderful. That's what I would add.
Yeah.
Just to add on what Jonathan was saying, that chase, there's people who love the chase and they never want to surrender. And that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a problem in any relationship if you want to be chased, or if you're the one who just likes to chase but not willing to surrender. Because at some point it has to end so that you can move to the next step. So if you're not willing to surrender, where is that going to go? Right? That's a short-term relationship. That's a short-term thing. It has its own highs within that. But if one person's not at that page, it's going to be an issue.
Wow. I love that. Everything you guys said. I think I've been on both sides also. I've been on both sides. I've always had the capacity. I've always had ocean capacity. But I think when certain people came into my field, I was like, well, I'm an ocean, but I'm gonna be teacup. I think I consciously was choosing who I wanted to, you know what I mean, do the ocean thing with, and who I wanted to be the teacup with. That's the honest truth, right? And then there were times when, like, I think I'm thinking most present, right? I would say it's possible to have a bigger ocean. You understand what I'm saying? It's possible that you could be two oceans, but one ocean is just bigger than the other. And I feel that, honestly, I feel like that's my husband. I feel like my husband is a bigger ocean than I am. And he's going to be like, I told you so. I always told, we have these, he'll say to my children, he'll be like, who do you think loves each other more, your mom or me? And then they're always like, oh, you. And then I'm like, what? You guys are sellouts. You know what I mean? Of course I love more. And then they're like, no, mom. And I'm like, I don't even understand why they would say that, because this is the most I have ever loved someone in my entire life, the most. I'm like, I have expanded beyond my own capabilities, like what I thought I was capable of. And so in talking about, a teacup, teacups can expand, right? Teacups don't have to stay teacups. They can expand to becoming oceans. And I think it's really important that we mention that, right? That just because you've experienced, a limited capacity, or you have a limited capacity, I think that everyone can do things. I think that's what healing does. I think when you heal those places, because most people may be teacups because they've experienced some form of abuse, abandonment, different things. So many different things could have a person say, I don't trust, so I'm just gonna give this much, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe they don't even know how to give more. And once they learn, once they heal, once they start surrendering and not being afraid of hurt or these things that once caused them to be locked in and limited, they can expand. And I feel like I've experienced being like, before my husband, I would think I was being the ocean to everybody, right? But when I encountered him, I was like, whoa, there's a bigger ocean. And then I had to see that I had limitations and break down some walls that I didn't even know were really there. And I think it's important to, you know what I mean, just to mention that even as a person with great capacity, you can still find that you have limitations when you encounter someone who's even a greater capacity. And you wouldn't know it until you meet them, you know? And so I just love everything you shared there. Definitely, I think, Morgan, the whole talk about from egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric, and cosmocentric. Thank you for putting that in the chat, Duane. That is something that makes so much sense. It's right there in our face, right? We know it. It's obvious when we talk about it now, but then how many times have we gotten into friendships, businesses, relationships, and never thought to say, well, which one of those is this person? I mean, obviously egocentric stands out to anybody who's a great lover. You're going to be like, this person's here. You might, just let that, you may not even engage with someone who's all about the ego, right? Egocentric love. But then the others, it's tricky, right? You may not realize how important it is for someone to love more than, because sometimes a woman might meet a guy and she's saying, oh my God, he loves his mom so much, right? He loves his mom so much. He's so good to his family. And you may assume that because that person loves their family, they're close, or they're so good to their kids, that it means that they may be on your level. You may be a cosmic person, right? And oh my gosh, you're going to clash. You're going to clash. You're only probably going to see eye to eye on the things as far as he's gone, right? Or they have gone. So that was an excellent point. Does anybody want to add anything to that before we?
I would love to. I would love to, because that could also be the type of love. People are not equally in all types of love. So a person may have a strong sense of family love, but not have a strong sense of romantic love. So that can get tricky. So a person can be looking at a significant other or potential and saying, "Oh my gosh, look at the love that he has for his mom, for his family, but he doesn't have that same kind of love for me." But that person may be a teacup when it comes to romantic love, but maybe ocean when it comes
Wow.
to family love or
Wow.
so there's so many types. They say there's about 8 or 9 types, right? And if you look at all the different types, we can look to see where do we stand, because we may not be strong in all of them.
And
So it
all
just
across the
depends
board,
on the type of
exactly.
relationship, and it depends on the type of person who's capable of having such love.
I
Ooh.
I I wanted to jump in. So when you mentioned that, Morgan, I just immediately thought like the family love versus the romantic love can be so intimidating for people, because in intimate romantic love, more of yourself is revealed. I feel. I mean, people have personas that they have in their family, the and roles they play with their parents or whatever it is. But romantic love can challenge you to really open up and reveal yourself. So because somebody, they love their mom and they're good, but they're the mama's boy. That's the role they're playing. That's the role that they were assigned to. But the intimate connection of being open, being vulnerable, connecting, it's a whole other level, right? And I know for me, that was a whole other level, and that scared me. When me and my wife got together, I was like, what is this? What is going on? I've never experienced this before. And the the ego losing control. And when you mentioned surrendering, that's all I had to do, and it was just all right. I don't know where this is gonna take me, but I'm just jumping in this roller coaster. So it's a very important point about yeah, somebody could have that family love, but that vulnerability and intimacy is a whole other level.
Mhm.
It's very difficult to show your true face to another person. So especially if you're worried about being judged or worrying about the person having certain types of biases. So when you have to show your true face, it's scary because how's this person going to accept me after showing her or him this mask I've been wearing the whole time, and then I take it off? Are you going to see me differently once I take off this mask? So it's totally understandable when when we get to that point when it's hard to show, well, it's hard to um, present ourselves within pure authenticity. Because again, especially for some men to show their true hearts, it's not an easy thing to show to another person. Because especially if you've been in toxic relationships in the past, or when you did try to show parts of your true self, it was ridiculed by the other person because that other person wasn't at that level of maturity yet when it comes to love, and you feel that everyone's going to treat you that same way too, so you automatically hold back. If you've gone through any trauma as a kid and you try to express that to a significant other who is not ready to hear the truth about your past, you're gonna fold up. You're gonna right. You're gonna hide parts of yourself because you don't want that to be known. You don't want that to be ridiculed. You don't want that to be, you know, the list goes on of all the different things. So we hold back, and rightfully so. So it's about how do you get when you're with the person? How do you get to the point where I can trust the person wholeheartedly to the point where when I do express my true self, it's accepted. Not an easy thing to do.
And that's the question that I wanted to ask is how do you know that you can and I want to ask in the way that you guys can each say like what was your own experience, right? So like how did you know? How do you know that I can meet this person with truth? How do I know that I can meet this person with truth? How do I know that it's safe to take the mask off? Not that you are necessarily, and here's the thing, when we talk about masks, some people deliberately wear masks. And then there are the masks that are on there not because you're wearing them, but let's just say if I am, I'm going to the store, right? You're just seeing me, a woman going to the store. You're not gonna know all about me and everything about me. And then so like there's levels to a relationship, right? If you're dating a person, you're just getting to know them. You don't need to go into your whole history of every single thing. So it's not like you're deliberately trying to hide who you are, but there's just a normal, natural progression as you get to, know someone that you're like, okay, I could show them a bit more. I could show them a bit more, right? So how did you know that this person that you were with was safe to meet them at that place of truth? How did you know?
Do you have a favorite movie
Do I have one?
that you can think of? Yeah. Do you have a favorite movie? You don't have to say the name of the movie, but
Yeah, yeah,
everyone probably has a favorite movie.
for sure.
Have you loved the movie? Have you loved the movie so much that you wanted to get to know everything about the movie? You wanted to see, you saw the edited version, which you love. You probably wanted to see the director's cut. You wanted to see the parts that never made it into the movie, the extra fluff that never made it in. All
Yeah.
that stuff becomes interesting to a person if you're a true fan of that movie. Now, if you just watch the movie with a loved one or with a family friend or whoever, and you just like the movie, it's not the same thing when someone loves a movie. You want to know the directors, you want to know the actors, you want to know the actors' backgrounds, you probably want to know more about the characters that are played within that movie. I think it's the same thing when it comes to romantic love. So if I love you so much to that point, I may want to start to know the director's cut because everyone shows their edited version. Everyone's showing their edited film,
Facts.
right? And some films are better than others, right? So if I see the edited version of the film and I love what I see, and I can watch the edited version over and over again, after a while, I want to get to know more. I want to see do you have a director's cut? Do you have all the scraps, the bits and scraps that never made it in?
Mhm.
Do you have the script that I can just read over on my spare time? Do you have
Mhm.
books that's associated with that movie, and so on and so on and so on? So when the person feels that type of attention and that type of interest and that type of love that's coming at them, they may start to show more and more and more. But in the beginning, I feel, at least at our age, we get the sense when someone's not interested in all that, and you can't share
Yeah.
that part of yourselves to another human being. And it may be different for certain people, because some people, um, some people can be very deceptive in that sense. But I think you can get a sense of a person in most cases, where or you feel that I can share more of myself because it needs to be shared. I should be able to express myself to someone who
Yeah.
is taking a deep interest in getting to know me. And if you really want to get to know me, you have to get to know the unedited version of who I am as well.
Oh, I love it.
Let me jump in here. So it kind of ties into this question and the last question you asked. And of the notion of how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So when it comes to, love of my children, to coworkers, to my community, to my wife, I don't really separate them because it all boils down to me. So, we're talking about divine feminine, divine masculine, that self-actualizing moment when you realize that you are divine and what it really means. You've done the healing work. You work on yourself daily, right? So it's not so much about the other person. I think this is where these 3D relationships are fading out because we spend too much time looking externally at everything out here around us. Like, are those gator shoes he has on? Is that a Bentley? Is that silicone or is that real? Like, we worry about all the wrong things, right? So when, I went through my second divorce, in which I was in it for 20 years, right?
Wow.
And, my kids and so forth. And now I find myself alone in a townhome and, you can hear the crickets and everything outside. That was a wake up call, right? And that's when I had to really go to work on me. I was already working on myself, but you go through a divorce, it kind of sets you back a bit, right? So, learning how to be alone, and that's where I start cooking, right? It's like it was a creative part of me. I was no longer playing basketball, I'm cooking, I'm going to the gym, working out, I'm reading books, I'm listening to music, I'm burning my candles, you know what I'm saying? I'm meditating, I'm doing all these things, raising my vibration. I'm all by myself. And I didn't want to be with anybody else until it got to the point where I was so full. I'm like, man, it would be great to share this with somebody else, like a feminine equal. I want to find a female that thinks and acts like me from the feminine side. She's working on herself. She's doing all these different things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And she pops up, right? And she's calling out to the universe for the exact same thing, right? So it's like, once again, you could only meet somebody else as deep as you meet yourself. So if I'm shallow with myself, I'm unforgiving, I'm non-trusting, like I don't know what I'm gonna do for the next minute, instead of being extremely disciplined, which a divine masculine man is, he's gonna be extremely disciplined. And when you reach that level, I don't care what the other person does. I'm gonna show up in your life.
How you
And
are.
I don't know how to be a boyfriend. I only know how to be a husband. I was a husband most of my adult life. I don't know how to be a boyfriend. So I'm going to show up. This is who I am. And if you don't like it, you will miss me. It's my job to make myself unforgettable. So I'm not coming in, tipping through the tulips, one foot in the door, one out. And you see this with men and women. They're doing the monkey paw thing. They got one claw on this person and one on the next, like waiting. No,
Mhm.
I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna be fully attentive. And I put this in the comments, I think, on the last podcast you ladies did. It's like I have to ask myself, what can I offer her that she can't get anywhere else?
Mm.
And it's 100% of me.
Mhm.
It's all of me. So if I show up, I'm attentive, I'm loving, I'm doing all this, I'm going to lay my cards on the table. I'm going to be vulnerable, because if I really love her, you know, once a man decides, a man knows when he meets that woman if he wants her or not. He knows if she's the fun girl, if she's wifey material. He knows. So it's like when you know and you're like, man, that's the one right there, right? I'm going to show up. I'm going to be vulnerable. And that is the greatest strength of a man, is to lay his heart on the line for a woman.
Mm.
And I just
Mhm.
want to add that love is love and fear is fear. You got to know where you're operating. Okay. And you can't be in both at the same time. You're always choosing. So you're either going to decide I'm moving in love or I'm moving in fear, because fear is the only reason why you wouldn't be your true authentic self to someone, tell them the truth about who you are, and whether they accept you or not, you are your authentic self. And the truth is, give that person the chance to accept you for you. You don't come with the mask. You don't come with half truths. You come with true authenticity, which is love. And if you are with somebody who is truly in their love vibration, they're going to accept you for who you are. Because you're either operating in love or fear. That's the two biggest energies in this entire universe. Every other energy is a derivative of love or fear.
I want you to clarify, right, Janie, when you say that, because we talked about mask, and I want to make sure that everything we say here is really clear for everyone to understand. So someone asks you, okay, I'm on a dating app, right? Because we're talking today's time, right? People use dating apps, they have social media, all of this type of stuff. When you say showing up as how you are in your true self, no mask, are you saying that if you're going to meet somebody for the first time, you know nothing about them, they know nothing about you, that you should let them on the first meeting, let's say you're going to go for a walk, right? You don't know who this person is, right? At what point do you let the person know all of who you are? And I want to say it this way. We're not saying, like, if the person says to you, do you like music? And then you're like, no, I don't like music. You know, we're not saying to lie. Do you want to have children? No, I don't want to have children when you do. So when people like deliberately wear masks, I feel sometimes like these masks are to not purposely not show who they are, right? There's a deliberateness there. I'm going to wear this mask because I do not want this person to see my face, as opposed to you're not denying who you are, but you're not just going out there like, hey, everyone, look at my this and that, right? So I feel like that's in our conversation. I want to make that very clear, because the last thing I want is anybody running out there to strangers, sharing everything about themselves, saying, this is me not wearing a mask. Because I think that there is a sacredness about who we are, and we need to share all of who we are with people who deserve, in a sense, I'm using the word deserve to even, like, how do I want to say, to even have that, right? Like there's some people who don't need to, they don't deserve to
access to
know.
that.
Yeah, they don't
Yes.
deserve to know all of your secret things. And it's not
Right.
because you're ashamed or hiding yourself, but because, bro, we're on date one. Chill. I don't need to
Right.
tell you how
So
I do this and do that and whatever, you know?
So we're talking divine masculine and divine feminine. So I
Yeah.
want that to be clear. We're
Yeah.
not talking about just you dating several women, several men. You're trying to find yourself. You don't know who you
Right.
are. You're still healing. I'm talking divine masculine, divine feminine. These
Yes.
are two people who have done the work on themselves and they have met in wholeness. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you know from a divine feminine standpoint. Okay. Okay. So when I was when we met, okay, I was there. I was working on myself. I put out into the universe exactly what I wanted. I wrote it down. I wrote down my divine lover who knows himself in God, in divinity,
Yeah.
right? Who loves himself. I mean, everything was there. So I know what I'm looking for. I
Right.
know what I'm magnetizing to me. I'm
Right.
recognizing. So
Mhm.
I know what I put out for it to come to me.
That's right.
Okay, so I want that to be clear. It's a difference between just a regular relationship and a divine
Right.
masculine and feminine on a mission to
Yes.
anchor down the unconditional divine love into this earth.
Yes.
Different, okay? So I knew who I was,
Yes.
I knew what I put out, and I knew what I was waiting to come back to me, to be magnetized to me, okay? So when Russell and I met, we met very organically. I have a health and weight loss business. I have a weight management clinic. Russell, as he just said, his creative passion is cooking, right? I saw him randomly online cooking. In what I saw this man's soul. I saw how much effort he put into it. Organically, I reached out to him because I wanted to just collaborate in business to bring clients to him, right? And that's how we organically met. When we arranged the phone call, the voice was like, whoa, I know, like, whoo, I don't know who this is, but it woke my cells up. There was an awakening there, and I let it be. So we met. He prepared some food for me. I tried them out. I was already aligning my life in unconditional love, my business, everything I did, right? So when I met him, I liked his energy. I liked how passionate he was. I liked just some of the things he posts randomly. It was all consciousness. It wasn't this silliness. It wasn't, sharing just, degrading thing, world star, just degrading people. He was always inspirational, always positive, always disciplined. So even from afar, I was like, okay. And then you take a closer look, right? So when we met, the conversations went deeper. And I was very honest with him. I was like, I'm coming out of a divorce. I want some substance. One of the questions I asked him was what do you think about unconditional love? Because I was there. I was awaking to what you call the universal cosmic love. I've been there, been there. And I held my vibration. I wasn't going to drop it. And I knew that, right? I knew that I had to have somebody to come up there with where I was. I wasn't coming down into the 3D, the egocentric. I wasn't doing that. Been there, done that. Wasn't doing it anymore. Okay. So Russell and I's conversation got really deep, really quick because he has the capacity. Our conversation went all across the cosmos, all across the cosmos. One of the things he gave was a book, The Celestine Prophecy. If you know anything about that book, it's very spiritual. It's about going to every insight. And when you go to the insight, you gain something new. That was literally how our experience was. Right? So you gotta just know where you are. And there's nothing wrong with having boundaries. There's nothing wrong with saying, this is where I'm at. Where are you at? And if you're not there, that's okay. I love you and I wish you well on the journey. I think so many times we feel like we can't be honest with what we want and what we expect.
Good point.
And he was up for he was up for it. He could hold it. There were so many things. There's still so many things that I learned from Russell. He literally is the masculine counterpart. Literally.
I love seeing you guys talk about your relationship because I just see that, like we talked about, like the flame, like I really see that expressed as you guys talk about how you connected with each other, and it's so beautiful. I guess I have a question. I don't know, sorry if Yan, you were going somewhere, but a question just came to mind, so I felt like I wanted to ask it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So, and this is like a polling for you all. I'm not sure if everyone has had that like divine masculine, divine feminine, like relationship encounter on that level or not. Has it been for everyone like an immediate recognition? Like I've had experiences like this before where it's like you connect with someone and there's like this immediate like a recognition, there's that flame, there's that like, it's just, and the timelines collapse and like stuff that would usually take a couple like months, you just like in hours, and you're spending all night and all day talking, and it's just this like amazing thing. do you feel like that relationship with the divine masculine feminine is always like that, or is there times where it's like it starts off like a regular relationship and then can evolve into a divine masculine and feminine encounter? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, you could talk about that. Could you talk about the runner?
Yeah, I personally think that if you meet at the same level, right, in the same capacity, and you are growing at the same rate, you can definitely do that. I think what happens with a lot of relationships is people grow at different times and
Yeah.
speeds, and then they end up growing apart versus growing together and growing vertical, right? So, I forgot my thought, but I definitely think you could do that. For us, it was a definite immediate recognition. Like I said, it was his voice. And I didn't even know, but the voice was, it was so like, it was like, I mean, my cells woke up, literally. It really did.
Mhm.
And every time we met, and this is how I really knew, every time we met, it was like this, and I felt strong with him. And then when he went, it was like this pull, and then I felt weakened when we were separated. And every time we would get closer, I felt stronger, and then I was weakened when we separated, right? But that recreation, right? That flame that goes on, it literally is the truth. Like we have a podcast, and that's a part of our ministry because it's how we recreate over and over and over again. And it I feel like some of these other relationships come to a halt because it's limited because
Yeah.
the two people are not growing in the divine, because it's not about me and it's not about Russell, it's about what's running between us.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about how we've had to purify our heart so that this divine energy in the mother God and father God is just expressing through this relationship.
Mhm.
And it's bigger than just us.
It's bigger than us.
It's like we have been brought together to serve humanity. So it's like once I've worked on myself and I wanted to share, she worked on herself, she wanted to share. Now I go from, okay, I'm a whole individual. Now we have a whole relationship. Now we have a whole family. Now we have a whole community. Now we have a whole nation. Now we are contributing to the cosmos. You see what I'm saying? We're ready to go out. And I'll say this one last thing and I'll shut up. So it's like in relationships, right? Most people have short-term, long-term goals, right? So, two people come together, they have adequate employment, self-employment, all this stuff, right? They can knock out goals within a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? We're going to get married.
Especially if they're go-getters.
Yeah,
You
we're
can
going
do
to
that
have
easy.
kids. We're going to put them in private school. We're going to do this, that. 3 to 5 years, you've accomplished all those goals. Now you're bored because now all you've done is checked off boxes. And this is what most people have been doing in these relationships. They're like, oh, I can get with them and we could do this and we could do that. And they're thinking of all these material things, right? Then the relationship fizzes out. Then they want to know what they were thinking and what was in their heart when they should have done that on the front end, right? But we say that you should have short-term, long-term goals. Then you should have intimate goals, right? Infinite goals. And that's what takes you in the cosmos, what he was saying earlier, right? Because now it's like if I'm working on myself daily and she's working on herself daily, that's what we do, right? And every day we're learning something new. That sparks up a new conversation. I become a new being. She becomes a new being. And that's what keeps the fire going and the spark going. That's never ending. I can hang out in a monastery, a library, or whatever the rest of my life, and I still won't know everything. You see what I'm saying? Because this lifetime is just one classroom in this journey of the soul. See what I'm saying? So it's like, and all we could leave here and all we could put in our proverbial bag when we pack up and leave the physical realm is love and precious memories. So we spend our time working on those things and those infinite goals, working on spiritual development and working on the soul and working on the mind.
Love it. Love it. Now, Kesley is sitting there. Kesley is sitting there quiet, taking it all in. She's taking it all in. I know, I know that she has probably a million thoughts about everything that we're saying. And Kes, I just want to hear your voice. I want you to chime in on this, whichever speaks to you,
Yeah.
whatever part of it is speaking to you.
You're
Please.
right. There is a lot. And I have just been sitting here, like in this space of love, like I just feel it. It's such a beautiful vibration that I just honestly was just sitting here enjoying it. But yes, a lot. I mean, one thing I've been thinking about is this idea of why do we hold back in love? Why do we wear masks? And I heard something, it actually was from Tony Robbins, and he talks about how we all have, every single human has two very deep fears. And our two deepest fears are that we won't be enough. And if we're not enough, we won't be loved. So yes, when we're in family dynamics, as we were talking about earlier, it's a lot easier because often there's more of a assumed space of unconditional love than when you start getting into dating and romantic relationships. So when I met up my husband, I definitely had a past of, you could call it wearing a mask, but it was more holding parts of myself back. So I guess in a way that would be a mask. And one of the ways that I knew he was different from the very beginning was that, and we met online, by the way. A lot of people, think, oh, does that work? We met on Hinge. I knew from reading his profile that he was very different because he was very transparent about his spiritual journey, and I was very transparent about my spiritual journey. And immediately through our first conversations in the Hinge text message thread was like deep stuff, right? Like we immediately went there. So it was different from the beginning, but from that first date, it wasn't that like cosmic connection until a little bit later, which I'll get to, but that first date, we exchanged something that both of us needed. He was on a spiritual path and he was trying to understand, how do I basically unlock the secrets of the universe? Like how do I go there? And I gave him the name of a book that was very transformative in his journey that I had read. That was, I mean, it completely shifted things for him. For me, he actually told me, and I shared this on a different episode, that if I ever dimmed my light, that would be the end of it. Meaning that he was the first man that I had ever been with who wanted to see all of me, and anything less than all of me, anything of me holding myself back would not be tolerated in that relationship. And that was so refreshing and so healing for me, that we knew from day one, day two, it was like, there's something different. There's some sort of cosmic exchange here that's deeper than, and both of us were dating other people at the time. We were both, doing the Hinge thing. So it was like, there were other people, but it was immediately like, there is something very, very different about this connection. And I also had shared about how very early on, we knew that there was a higher purpose in terms of what we were doing in wellness. We were each on our own journeys and we decided to collaborate very early on. Date 3 was when we had our first kiss. And from that moment that we made that connection, it was like a level of safety in my body that I could just feel this like bit of a guard, right? Or like a protection that I had been holding, that I think as a woman, we often do until we know it's safe and we feel it's safe. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm there. Like I'm in that feeling of home and safety. And it wasn't an intellectual, like the pieces fit. It was a feeling in my body that I could feel that our spirits fit, our souls fit. And so it was, I mean, there was, of course, the like logical piece of, hey, this works. We have a lot in common and I can see where this is going and I can see us building something here. But deeper than that, it was the feeling in my body and the feeling I had when I looked in his eyes, and I knew that I could trust him. So that was my experience.
Ah, so beautiful. I'm in it. I'm like, and you know what? He said that, I know he's off. It's so beautiful because this is gonna lead into our next part of the question, because he said, if I get back home in time, I'm gonna jump on because he's off looking at, because you guys have a nonprofit also down there, and he's looking about some stuff. What are you guys building down there? Is it a school or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, we're the school is the next phase, but right now we're working on a community center for a community that we've adopted. And he sent me videos of the family that we're going to be basically adopting and their home. And he's like, we talked before I came on, and he's like, I've never seen anything like this. So yeah, he was out meeting the family and creating some plans for where that goes next. So yeah, it was, I never saw it going in this direction with the nonprofit. I've always been involved in nonprofits, but yeah, we knew from the beginning it was bigger than us. That seems to be a theme that we keep carrying through these episodes.
Exactly. And that's why I was saying I want to go on to the next part, because when one of the things I think we talked about, like, how do you know it's this person? For me, all my life, I've always known my purpose. I've always known what I was supposed to do, how I'm supposed to, I guess, interact with the world, right? And what was in me that I was supposed to bring out. And so I did mention that meeting my husband helped me to actually step more fully into all of my gifts, there are things about, for example, hypnosis is one of them, right? Like Jonathan shared that he's a hypnotherapist. I knew ever since I was a little girl that at some point in my life, I would be a hypnotherapist. I knew I would get into that somehow, but throughout my life, there are so many things about it that I kind of had little, I don't know if I want to really get involved. I don't know if I want to. And then after my NDE, it became more clear to me. And then my husband was like, listen, you know what I mean? You're doing this thing. He didn't, I said, okay, there's a course. It was like, here's the card. No problems, no nothing. He was just there to support me. And I knew that regardless of what I encountered through this process, he would be there to help me, through it. And so said, so done. It was like a whole other level of different abilities opened up, but he was right there. Like, if he wasn't there, I don't know if I would feel as confident, being able to move into those. I mean, there's no one around me who I found out about Jonathan being a hypnotherapist way after this, but there was no other, hypnotherapists around me that I could even ask questions like, hey, this is what I'm encountering with clients, because I do a lot of past life regressions, right? And but my husband was right there. I actually said to him, you know what, babe, I don't want to do this with anyone unless I experience it myself. And I don't trust any other therapist to just go out there and to put me into any state. So he said, okay, show me. So I trained him, right? So before I even had a client, I was a teacher. I trained my husband everything I knew so that he could put me under and that I could experience what I would be doing with people, right? So this is what I'm trying to say. Something as simple as that, because I wasn't going to step into it unless I knew what I was going to be doing with people, right? So he was that person there that I could trust enough to go that route. Purpose. We mentioned that word, purpose. Like I said, I always knew my purpose. When I met my hubby, I had, let's say I knew that I would need to acquire property. It was, for years, over 10 years, I've been telling everybody, the reason I'm doing everything I'm doing is to be able to do this, and I need to build this and build that. So I was getting everything together, but what about the property? Where is this going to happen? Okay, I'm still saving, I'm still doing whatever. When I met my hubby, he had the property, but he's not that guy, that social guy out there. He's his mindset, he's business-minded, but very spiritual, but business-minded. You're not going to catch him in a church, in a mosque, in anything. But he is literally, for me, the most spiritual man I've ever been with. Most spiritual man I've ever been with. I describe my husband as, you say, I literally get choked up. I describe him as, like, when I met him, I felt like it was being from, obviously, Christian religion. We talked about this before. I literally felt like my husband was the love of God incarnate. Like, I felt like God has manifested in the form of a man to love me. that is absolutely, and I feel it never changes every single day, right? And so, but the thing is purpose. He's the only person that I ever met that, like I said, the part that I didn't have complete, he had complete, and the part he didn't have, I had. So when we came together, he had the half and I had the other half. And when now with me meeting him, there were, let's say, like, I had limitations on how much can I actually do, because I'm a mom. And I know if I have to produce a certain amount, that means I'm going to have to spend more time away from my children. I don't know if I'm willing to go into, like we talked about, that hustle mode, you know, and not be there, because I homeschool all my children. So I'm like, how am I supposed to acquire so much while being so present with them? I can't. I know what I need, Most High. I know what you're showing me. I know you could do anything, but how am I supposed to do it? You know what I mean? And boom, in stepped the answer. But the answer was not just, okay, let's do the business thing. No, it wasn't that at all. It was, oh my gosh, I found the person who makes it okay to be on earth. I told you guys that was my experience. I met him and I felt a weight drop off my body, like just in his eyes, weight drop off my body. And my words, I heard myself say, I could be here now. Like, I knew I had something to do on earth, but I knew that I could not do it alone. It was too heavy, too much for one person to carry. I knew that. So when I met him, immediately that load fell off of me. I didn't even know I was carrying it, but it fell off. And so that feeling of home, of safety, I honestly believe that anything we put our minds to do, it will and can be done, because our visions are the same. Exactly. I mean, to the T, and like Morgan said it, cosmic and ego and all of that, like we are on the exact same level. So we feel the same about everything, right? So we have disagreements about stuff, but it's nothing like other relationships when you have an argument. You have an argument, like, I don't even know to say what we, probably if we do have anything, it's probably like spending more time. He would come home and just want me to, like, just be there with nothing to do, but just let's cuddle up. You know what I mean? These are probably the things, right? But no actual real anything. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's no problem. It's just like, how do we accomplish this next thing that we're doing? And way more, like, I think Russell said it, these check marks that people have. Oh, get a car, none of our goals are about these things. These things are nothing. None of our goals, cars will come, houses will come. These things are nothing. The goals are not anything to do with our little individual selves. Those are like nothing to make a goal about. You get what I'm saying? Nothing to make a goal about. The goals are big goals. They're earth goals. They're cosmic goals, right? And so let's talk a little bit about, when did you realize that person wasn't just a person, but they were purpose? Like, you were meeting purpose. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you were coming face to face, like a part of you now is like, oh, wow, I can accomplish this thing now. This is my partner in life. This is my partner in life. Did you guys experience that?
I'll say one of the things we say all the time is that we seek the kingdom first and its righteousness, and all other things
will be added. That's right.
And we have literally lived that out. I mean, we live in a beautiful, abundant life. We're so blessed, and I'm in gratitude. I tell him every day. I say, babe, I love my life. Yeah, I tell him that all the day. I say, I just love my life. I love every part of my life, because the truth is, it's not about all the external things.
Yeah.
It's about seeking inside. And that's what we done from the beginning. And now I feel like we've reached this beautiful balance and harmony, and we dance to maintain our balance and harmony. But we see so much added on to us.
Yeah.
And it's been beautiful.
Yeah. What about anybody else about purpose? Like how did purpose come into play when you met that your other half? Well, other whole. And
I'll say for me,
important is it? Yes, go ahead, Morgan. Go ahead.
uh, quick. I think it's quick. For me, I can't say I've ever met that type of person, but um, for me, with my own spiritual journey, I saw that within myself. So seeing that within myself, I got to a place where I was able to face both the feminine and the masculine, and I had to watch the two. If you want to put in those terms of me being the witness, watching the two merge,
Yeah.
until to the point where I saw purpose in the both of the two sides of myself blending into one whole. But I can't say romantically I've seen that in another person in that sense, or that I looked at another person and said this was purpose.
Yeah.
But in my own personal journey, in regards to my own internal self, I can say that would have been the case.
I want to say something very important here. It's so important because we talk all the time about divine masculine and feminine outside ourselves, but then also within ourselves. We always mention it, right? Everybody being able to find that balance within themselves. And I think that anytime you actually are going to do anything that's going to be lasting, anything divine, it cannot come to fullness unless that balance is there. And Morgan is a great example of saying like, hey, purpose, I saw purpose, but that balance, that oneness had to happen within myself, you know? And so it's very important. I think even some of us who may have accomplished things before meeting our divine person, if we could look at anything we've done before that was, led by love, you can see that steadfastness you had when you did that thing, it was because there was that deep balance, within your own self. And speaking for myself, I could say I could look back at things that I did successfully, like, yes, Spirit put that in my heart to do it. And I didn't feel that weight of how am I gonna accomplish this thing? How am I supposed to? It was just done. Oh, okay, sure, boom, right? And done because within myself, I felt so centered. I felt complete. I felt like I can do this, right? And then it's possible, like the next thing I shared, where the whatever you're shown is not for you alone to carry. And so in that, you need to be able to find that other person and identify them. And I think one of the ways that you identify them is because you have the same purpose. It's been bubbling in them, or they've been shown it, you've been shown it, so you come together and you're able to walk, in your power, right? However you are, masculine, feminine, whatever it is. And Morgan, you said before that there's the times where you could be together, maybe even making love, and that masculine feminine thing is gone. You're just one. You don't even know. And the first time I ever experienced that in my life was with my husband, where there was an very intimate session, and I literally was like, whoa, I didn't know if it was his body or my body. I didn't know where, I don't know whose body was whose body. It literally, it was like, I don't know if I was out of body or in a body. I had no idea. It was just such a oneness. All I know is that I could feel him and I could feel myself, but I didn't know where I was apart from in each other. And it was
That's
no,
tantra.
yeah, it was no masculine or feminine. It's just like we are in it together, right? That Jonathan's laughing. Jonathan, speak. You see Jonathan laughing. He's up to something.
Kesley, I saw you were going to speak, but you were muted.
Oh,
Just by
she's
the way.
muted.
Yeah, thank you. No, you don't. This Morgan's comment is hilarious. That's all. No, I don't really have too much to add about that. I will say that for me, so the divine union in meeting my wife, it opened me up to another level of me, and
Right.
and it opened me up to another level of reality. It blew past my limits of what I thought was me and what I thought was, life became magical and mystical on levels where it was direct. And I've always had direct, experiences and whatnot, but this was like virtual, like 4D, 5D reality. Like
Yeah.
it was, um, real quick, when we first met, we met as friends and we were just, teasing each other, having fun, but both of us held back. But we kept showing up in each other's life mysteriously. We just kept meeting and meeting and meeting. And then the recent meet was like, whoa, what are you doing? Oh, what are you doing? You want to get married? Sure. And we don't know why we said that. And I said, did I just say that? And she's like, did she just say that? And it was like a burst of whatever we were holding back, that ocean, whatever, just unfolded and took over us. And so when you talk about purpose, I feel like the union part of that purpose, it's unfolding still. I'm still, gaining more awareness, but it has shown me deeper layers of me and shown her deeper layers of herself.
That's
And I
right.
think it's been a great witness and example to people who I could see didn't believe in this, didn't believe it was
Right.
possible
Right.
for them, and them seeing us, it made them believe in. I think some people really started believing in divinity
Yeah. Yeah.
through observing relationship and the mystical things that was happening around us.
Yeah.
I think people who did not have a strong connection, an aware connection or practice,
Yeah.
that divine union was proof for them.
Exactly.
It,
Exactly.
the energy around us,
Yeah.
how natural it was in our story,
Yeah.
it renewed their faith, it renewed
Yeah.
their belief. And I saw it, and I saw it in people who made the decision to get out of relationships they weren't happy about,
Yeah.
or attracted their own soulmates.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that we were that example. And so that purpose you speak about is just multi-layered.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
would
I
say.
think that's so beautiful. That is so, so
I,
beautiful.
I just wanted to say that when Jonathan was saying that, I'm not gonna lie to you. I actually wanted to cry. I'm not even gonna lie to you because I know Jonathan for a very, 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 very long time. So to hear him say that, for me, it just moved me. It touched me. I, that was
I
beautiful.
I
That was beautiful.
I, I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. And we often talk about when you are, okay, so when you are a person who has the um the divine marriage within your own self, okay, you carry that flame, right? Because it's the divine masculine and feminine meeting within yourself. It's a merging, it's a marrying, it's a two becoming one, it's a wholeness. So as an individual, right, you have that wholeness. And when you walk around and you go wherever you go in life, people feel that. They feel that. They're like, something's different about this person. They want to be around you. They just come to you with stuff and whatever the case is. And you could identify that. It literally your light shines, right? When you have that merging, that marrying, of the divine feminine masculine within yourself. And when you have it with somebody else, people feel it. I said, I think on the last episode, it's healing, you know, like the amount of things that happen, when my hubby and I are together, like people witnessed it. People knew we were an item before we even told people that we were an item. People were saying like, and we were not even beside each other. Are you guys together? Like they could feel that there's a connection. So when you get into a place where without saying you're together or standing beside each other, people are able to feel your energy and your connection. That says a lot, right? Also, I wanted to talk a little bit and see if we could get into this, because you mentioned, Jonathan, some supernatural things, happening. There are a lot of different mystical things that happen when you're connected with that other person, and also obviously with yourself. Recently, I think I was sharing in our group, we have a higher self group, and on Wednesday we had a meeting, and I was sharing with them how I was on the phone talking to my husband, and I walked into the kitchen. I was cooking something that he asked me to cook, but he didn't know that. And I was on the phone with him, sitting here at the computer, and I walked into the kitchen, and he was like, "Are you in the kitchen? I'm smelling the food." Like, he literally, where he was in his car driving, it was like another city, driving back, and he was smelling the food. He was smelling what I was cooking to him. And this is something, Jonathan, you're shaking your head, right? Like, the connections, the things that happen sometimes, whether it's like you're thinking of the person, and then, you're like, oh, I should call them now. And then you pick up your phone to call them, and they're calling you. And there's all of these other just beautiful things, that happen. Sometimes we dream the same dream. So then we know, okay, we obviously weren't dreaming. We're in the place together. But like, there's times where we've been, maybe making love, and I'm seeing something and he's seeing what I'm seeing, or hearing what I'm hearing. So there really is it's a different level from, okay, I'm psychic, I know what you're thinking. No, when you both are understanding what the other person is thinking, seeing, experiencing, that's a whole other level, right? It's almost like you're sharing consciousness in a sense. So I don't know, Morgan, if you have anything to share on that. What would be the metaphysical term for that sort of connection?
What's interesting about that, everything you said, I can relate to. I don't know it long term though. I don't think I've been with anyone and known that type of thing long term. But short term, it's happened on many occasions where you could be thinking of a song and you're singing the song in your head. You haven't even hummed the song, and the person starts singing the song in tune, in sync with you as you're singing the song. Someone who just made love to you, or someone who you have an intimate relationship with. So that type of thing, I've seen it happen all the time. Even something that, is it Russell?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Russell.
Russell was saying about he was saying something earlier about like the same numbers, like the four four, the 444, the 333s, the 222s, that type of stuff. When two people notice that in sync with another person, it can go on to the point where you see how we have objective and subjective thinking, when you can actually subjectively sense someone else's subjectivity. It's the strangest thing, where you're not witnessing a person objectively anymore. You're literally within that person's head, or in their realm, their spirit, and you can feel and see everything from their standpoint, from their perspective. It's the freakiest thing when that happens on the metaphysical level, and the list goes on. The point where even if you're not physically making love, but two people can merge to such a degree where it's beyond the physical love, where I call that metaphysical love, where you're actually mind meld and heart meld, and every cell in your body has melded with another individual, to the point where you're sharing the same space, you're sharing the same body, you're even sharing the same room, and until you can get to the point where you're actually sharing the same earth. These things happen. I've experienced all this stuff myself. And when it happens, it's more than magical. When it happens, you can't even explain it in words. When it happens and two people know that it happens, that's all that matters. That's all that counts. Because when two people are in tune and they reach that level, whether it's temporary or if it's long term, you just know it. And it's a connection that you can't write that in a book.
Yeah, I'll share a couple things here. We've had so many of those type of experiences, and it got to the point where both of us have done it, where we've answered a question that the other person was thinking. They didn't say it. She's like, I didn't even say that. She goes, why did you answer that? I didn't even say it. And she's done it to me. That's happened. Then the other thing is, like when we first met, the first extended conversation we had, I was like, oh man, this was my woman. I was like, I would conquer the world with her, right? Because she was like
See?
to my puzzle. Like I'd seen it immediately. It was like all of her qualities, right? She was very like when I met her, I thought she would be stuck on herself just seeing her. She's very easy on the eyes. And it's like, I'm like, okay, she's probably stuck on herself, something like that. She was a complete opposite of everything that I didn't really know her like that. So I can't really say that, but I was just thinking if I was going to err, I would have erred that way. And it wasn't who she was, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very, very loving, empathetic. And I think she had just come back from her first trip going over to Africa, going off grid to go help treat people who couldn't get medical attention or whatever. She turned around, did it the year after, like on her own dime. So this is the type of woman she is. So I just knew that like she's like amazing, right? So one day she's like, okay, you're an engineer, you're ex-basketball player, you know, you do this, you do that, you do all these different things, you're a writer. She's like, but what do like like what do you really see yourself doing, right? And I said that I see myself being like this motivational, inspirational speaker, right, to help people transform their life, right? Because it's like I seen how mine transform. I went from being this little introverted kid to now, you know, I have a lot to say, right? And a lot of it is because I've done the work and now I see the world through this big lens, right? And she was like, okay, I see that. So maybe about a month later, she has a dream. She keeps a dream journal. She goes, I had a dream about you. And I go, well, tell me about it. She goes, you were speaking in front of this large audience of people, you know, and also I see you speaking to a smaller group of young men and somebody standing in the back of the room holding a Y up with a letter Y, a sign with a letter Y. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So about 3 months go by. I get a call one day and it's my high school because I played basketball. We went to state championship, all this other stuff, right? And during that time, the city, I'm from a little small steel town. So, you know, when the steel industry shut down, there was like this just depression. But everybody rallied around the high school sports teams. And we go to the state championship, and the fans just follow us everywhere. Like everywhere we went, we outnumbered all the fans. They're standing outside in the parking lot, everything, right? So they call, they go, uh, the city's facing similar times they did back in the 80s, right? And we can't think of anybody other than you to come and do the commencement speech to talk to these kids, you know, about, you know, that, right? To help them get.
Mm-hmm.
And I just broke down because that's what I asked God for. That's what she had to dream about. So I go back. I had never spoke to no more than maybe 15, 20 people on Teams calls at work, right? And you know, but I played in front of thousands of people playing ball, but that's different. And so I go, they have a brand new auditorium, 1,700 people. I go in, I killed it, right? I did a great job. So some other people seen that, and Atlanta Technical School here in Atlanta has a program called the Year Up program, where they take underprivileged kids, they teach them technical skills, uh, they get them internships, have something like a 99% placement, job placement, right? But within that group, they had a group of young Black men that they would pull out every Wednesday, put them in suit and tie, and they would have different people come speak to them. So a guy said, can you come and speak to these kids, right? And I'm like, cool, I'll come speak to them. So when I get there, like even the paperwork they sent me, their symbol was a Y because it was for Year Up program, but their symbol was a Y. So the paperwork had the Y and it had signs all throughout the area that we sat and did the speech had a Y, but that was the dream she had.
Yeah.
So it's like the divine pulls people together for purpose. And it's like we keep saying, this is our purpose. Like even what we're
Yeah.
doing now, this is our
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, so that is the sacredness of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Women, just being the divine feminine in our union, I get the messages from the divine.
Yeah.
I get them. I get them through dreams and visions and things like that for Russell, for our children, for our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And that is what the sacredness is. And so you can't do that with everyone.
Exactly.
That requires a sacred union that's been blessed by the divine. And
Yeah.
so I just wanted to add that, and that is the purpose. Like, to be honest, that's the only purpose, is that divine message can come through us for whoever it is. It could be a stranger, it could be just a message in the earth, it could be a message I need to say on a podcast, for whatever it is. That is the entire and only purpose. Is so that the divine can work through us. And that I just wanted to make sure that that's the sacredness of it. I don't get dreams for every man. I get dreams for my divine masculine. You know what I'm saying? Because we are synced. We are.
Yeah, I love that. Some of us are dreamers, right? Some people just that's how spirit be communicating with that. Like that's been a thing across the board, right? For example, like that's me, right? That's one of the things, that's one of the ways that spirit, directs and guides and whatever the case is. So it could be a dream about for a friend, it could be for a stranger, it could be anything. That's just a thing. But even if you could be a dreamer or whatever gift you have, when you meet that person, it levels up. That's my whole thing. So, because someone could be listening and be like, but I did have a man and I had a dream, and he wasn't that person. Um, some of us just have certain gifts and it's there. But when you meet that person, it it just goes to a whole other level, like a whole other level. And not only that, but it can unlock other abilities, other things. So maybe you've been a dreamer all your life, but now all of a sudden, like right before he steps out, you're getting a vision of, hey, don't take that route, take that route instead. You know what I mean? Warnings, different things just come into play. Directions, when it's time to move, when it's time to this and that. So I think it's amazing because some people, when we talk about husbands submitting to wives and all of this, and wives submitting to husbands. And sometimes people have like a really difficult time understanding that, understanding even what does it mean for a wife to submit to a husband or a husband to submit to a wife. And there's so much negativity around that word submission or even the word surrender. But one key thing is that when you are with that divine person, the best way I could put it is like a dance, right? You have a dance at this. Okay, if I'm the one who knows, bachata, right? Then okay, I'm gonna lead, right? I'm gonna lead. You follow me. We're learning whatever. If there's another dance style that comes on that I don't know, then you're gonna lead. It's not necessarily that the husband always is the person to make the final decision or the wife is the person. No, you work together. You know the strengths, right? So if my husband knows I'm a dreamer, if he knows my certain gifts, he may say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do this certain thing. He'll come to me first and say, hey babes, let me just run this by you. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think about that? Are you picking up anything about that? And I'll be like, you know what? I'm getting this from that. I'm getting that from that. I would caution on this. And so with that knowledge, let's say, for example, if he was going to invest $1 million, with that knowledge, he was like, you know what? Let's invest this much instead. And then with investing that much, you can make moves and whatever the case is. So my point of that is that you find that once you know each other's gifts, talents, strengths, that's what you're submitting to. Do you get what I'm saying? You're submitting to, oh, this is where you're strong at. You lead there. This is where you're strong at. You lead there. That's what it is, right? So I think that sometimes people, like from religion and everything else, has just put such a negative spin on that word submit. It's like, when do you fan the flame, right? You don't want to just be fanning it the whole time. You'll out the fire. You wait, you watch. Okay, you understand? So it's a dance, it's a movement, it's a symphony, it's all of that stuff when you're connected to that divine person. And I love hearing these
Yeah, just real quick. The
go ahead,
submission,
go ahead.
just to make sure the submission is for the mission.
Hey, the submission is for the mission. Hey, brother,
Not
that
submitting
is it.
to anything.
That is it. Yeah,
We're submitting to the God within one another
that's it.
for the mission.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that any gift that somebody has, any ability that somebody has, there's lots of words that we could use, right? You could say most high, you could say spirit, you could say the all, you could say choose your thing, right? But let's say I'm just gonna say most high. Any gift, talent, ability that we have is from the most high. And it's from the most high in order to accomplish a divine will, a divine purpose, which I believe is for the, upliftment and the advancement of not just yourself, but for all of creation. I believe that creation is always, even if the spiral sometimes may seem downward, it's still, in my experience, even what may seem like a downward spiral, if you change your perception of it, you'll realize it's all upward. But what's really upward? Is it upward or inward? You get what I'm saying? And then it's all, right? So I think like when we realize these gifts, it's most high moving through us with these gifts. Like you said, brother, you submit. The submission is for the mission. Why would spirit choose to give me the gift of dreams and you the gift of whatever? Then it's because spirit is going to use me with the gift of dreams and use you with that other thing. So we're submitting always to spirit within the whatever, however, whichever way spirit chooses to use us. And that is the beautiful thing, is when your love transcends your identity, when the love transcends, this just your experience, when the love is greater, than all of it, is the most beautiful thing to me. So I want to get any other advice. I would say it this way. We have people watching, some are in divine union, some are not, some are looking for, some didn't even know that it existed, right? If each of you can give some sort of, what would you say to yourself back then, before you knew that divine union existed, before you had experienced it? You may have thought to yourself, you know what, that exists, but you didn't experience it, you didn't know it. So what would you say back to yourself? Let's say if we could each go back 30 years, okay? I'm not giving away our ages on here, but let's say if we could all go back 30 years, okay, and say something to ourselves about divine union, what would you want to say to yourself? I can go first because it just popped. I'll go first, give you guys time to think. I just made up this question. You know how I do with the questions. That's one of my gifts. Questions galore, right? I would say to myself, do not settle. I think I would say that to myself. Do not settle. And do not settle in terms of like do not be afraid, because you are enough. So do not settle. Right? When I look over my life, and obviously everything in my past has been a lesson I've learned from, but it's choice. I didn't have to choose that way. I chose that way, and I'm aware of that. But I think every time I could see that I made certain choices that I learned from, and they weren't necessarily, if I could go back, I know with the mind I have now, I would not choose that if I had the knowledge that I have now. I would definitely say, don't be afraid and don't settle, because in a lot of these past relationships, I was afraid to be alone. Like this world, there's a lot happening out in this world. I'm seeing a lot of things happening to people in this world. I don't feel safe alone in this world. I feel like I really need to have a partner. Like, I don't think I'm supposed to be alone right now. And so because of that fear of not feeling safe in the world, I compromised. I saw red flags, but my safety, the whatever fear I was picking up, it was greater, to me. So I just settled. But looking back, I would say to myself, Yandea, girl, you have angels, you have protection that you don't even see, girl. You'll be fine. No one's gonna come, and you will be okay. Just wait for him. You already know what he feels like, because I've always known what my husband feels like. So you know what he feels like. You know what you're supposed to experience. Just wait. He's coming. Just wait. That's what I would say to myself. Don't compromise. Anybody? I give you guys time to think. What would you say to yourself 30 years?
Mine is very similar, in that what I would tell myself is have the courage to be yourself, because your soulmate will not be able to find you if you are pretending to be something that you're completely off course. And for me, it really was about courage. It was about, being okay with not always fitting in, and being okay with not every person, that you are interested in falling madly in love with you. Like, it's okay. So definitely be an emphasis on courage, the courage to be yourself, and the courage to love, because we were talking earlier about the ocean and the teacup. I've always been in the ocean, and for so long, because I was afraid to be myself, I pretended I was a teacup, but I was really an ocean. And so the courage to love and the courage to be yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that. Who's next?
I think for me, and I agree with the both of you. Very well said. I think for me, it would be to find the love within yourself first and foremost. And then it would be to remain open, to be vulnerable, and to trust in my journey and my process,
That's good advice.
Yeah, I would probably say it's worth the journey. I'm a big believer that we're always where we're supposed to be in life. I'm grateful that we met when we met, because we were the best versions of ourselves. And had we met any time before, it wouldn't be this, right? So I'm grateful for my journey. I don't regret anything. My whole journey has been transmuting. I've been the shifter in my family. I've had to shift everything you could think of. And it's been a beautiful journey, but I understand it, because it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about who I've become in the journey. And I'm grateful for that.
Facts. What about you, Russell?
Yeah, I would say, and Kesley and I think one of the gentlemen also mentioned, I would say, especially for men, we have to learn how to love fearlessly. And, we could walk around with broad shoulders, big biceps, but when it comes to the heart, I think most men are weak. And, it's like most of them are afraid of having their heart broken, getting rejected. But to me, that's showing the greatest strength. And it goes back, I think I said this last time I was on here. Gosh, what's her name? Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
She had been married like 6 times or so and still believed in the institution of marriage. And she stated that it takes a strong person to love and even a stronger person to receive it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times men, the love of their life is knocking at the door, the opportunity's there, but because we put these barriers up to block someone from hurting us, but we're blocking love from coming in. That's where our blessings are, right? Most men don't realize, like a lot of men, you'll see them, they're single, they're successful, whatever. You could be 10 times more successful with the right woman on your arm. Like all the great men that I know had a woman on their side. They were married, Martin, Malcolm, Nelson. You always see these women who they're on the same mission. Something happens to them, these same women can take over the movement, the mission. And it's like, because they see our blind spots, we hold each other's blind spots.
Yeah.
We operate off of see a need, fix a need. It's like we have our designated duties and responsibilities, but there are some things that are ambiguous that, hey, if you could jump in and grab that because I'm on the other side of town with the kids, picking them up from sports practice or whatever, then so be it. We just jump in. We don't sit around waiting for the other person to get here 2-3 hours later and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I just say, just be fearless, right? Because they say fear God. I don't understand that part. You should love God. If God is love,
Mhm.
how can you fear the most loving, omnipresent thing in the universe? It's like love and fear, once again, can't exist at the same moment. So I just say, learn to love, spread love. And once again, getting back to the divine masculine knows how to tap into that feminine aspect of his brain where he's empathetic and he's loving and he's kind. But on the other side, he's a warrior. That's how all these great leaders accomplish things. They had to have a love for their families, their people, everything else. Otherwise, you're just a G.I. Joe character on a seeking. You're going to kill everybody, including yourself. But anyway, that's it.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. We have Jonathan and Morgan, whichever one of you want to share next.
Would say if I went back 30 years, I would say it's not all about you,
Mm,
right? It has to include other people.
mm,
It's not all about you. It has to include other people. So that I would say that would have been the thing that I would have said to my younger self, because that has always been part of the journey of learning how to open up and to make sacrifices for other people.
mm. I love that. Jonathan?
Talking to my younger self, I would say learn to dance salsa because your wife is an amazing salsa dancer and she wouldn't let me lead in the beginning, right? But I stepped up, so she kind of lets me lead now. But but I would tell myself um what I learned now is to trust your knowing.
Yeah, that's it.
Deep down inside, you just try to deceive yourself, or you go into illusions about yourself. But if I look back, I just there's things I knew,
Yeah,
and I just didn't want. I listened to the illusion, to the
yeah,
mask. So
yep,
trust your knowing, because bro. That's what I would say.
yeah. And I think it's important to be able to look back because, we and it's beautiful. It's a nice place between, I know like Janie mentioned, you know, there's no regrets, right? It's a it's a place that we have to come to when we could look back and say, I don't have any regrets, but what did I learn? You get what I'm saying? I don't have any regrets, but what did I learn? Because some people take the mindset of I don't have any regrets and it ends there. They never look back and say, well, but was there something to learn though? And I feel that if you just move through life without ever saying, well, what was there? What was in this for me to learn? It's possible that you would continue in the same cycle, the same thing over and over and over. So I think it's important for us to be able to have these moments of, looking back and saying, what would I say to myself back then? Because it's possible that what we share here, someone can take that information and say, well, what if I had to say that to myself right now? What if right now, yes, I'm 42 years old, but what if right now I said to, like, my thing was, you're enough and you're safe. Many women are saying, oh my gosh, I'm 40, I don't have a man yet, let me just settle because I want to have, you know what I mean? Or the world, crazy things are happening, let me just find a partner. A lot of people get into situations because they just don't trust, you know, themselves enough. They don't think that they are enough. They don't trust their visions, their gifts, their everything, right? And then you have some other people like Morgan said, right? That they may just be thinking about themselves. So then they need to know, yeah, it's not all about you, right? And what every single one of us said here, and I'm sure there's so many more. So I find the information or the advice that we have for ourselves 30 years ago is always still relevant today, even in our own life. I find myself still saying that, you know, Yandea, do not, okay, look back. You remember when you didn't trust, when you look at the lesson, every single time you compromise, this is what happens. Every time you compromise. So, you know, what's the lesson? Stop compromising. Stand strong in who you are. And Duane, what was yours again?
Yeah, just basically having that love for myself first, and
Yeah.
then staying open, having the courage to stay vulnerable, you know, like Russell mentioned that fear of rejection is a real thing, you know, that men deal with, and just trusting the process. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. So this is it. This is it. This is the ending of our 7-episode series. And I don't know if anyone has any last words, because this is going to be the closing. Maybe, you know, I think I have one more thing that I want to ask of you guys. If you don't know, that's fine. But I want you to complete this sentence. Love is. Love is. And we know you could choose a billion different words. But if I were to say, finish this sentence, love is, can you just, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Love is the way we change the world.
Ooh.
That's what came to my mind. And when you were asking if there's anything else, that's what came up for me, is that these topics that we've been talking about, and the masculine and the feminine and love and self-love and the union within, I truly believe this is how we change the world.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Love is. Russell, Janie, love is.
Revolutionary.
Mm.
Revolutionary. Right now, men and women coming together, building strong families and communities, changes the dynamics like overnight. It changes your economic situation. It changes poverty. It changes like so many things. Single parent households dwindle, and nobody's coming to fix that except for us.
Janie?
Love is healing. If you allow love in, just allow it. It will heal every dark corner. It'll heal every insecurity. It'll heal every trauma, but you just have to allow it in.
Yeah. Yeah. Morgan?
Love is love with a capital L. So love with a capital L is the umbrella, and everything in existence comes underneath that.
Yeah.
And if you could experience love with a capital L, you get to experience everything that ever existed. And that's where you get to experience true love, absolute love which is no different than God itself.
That's right. That is right.
God.
That is right. Love is God. Love is God. God is love. Jonathan, love is.
Yeah, Morgan took mine. Especially with the capital L. I was going to say that too. But I'm just going to end it how I started it. Love is home, and home is love. It's, you know, you don't have to earn it. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to, you know, we never lost it.
Yeah.
You know, we're playing this game of hide and seek. We never lost it. We've always had it. We are it. And so love to me is home. you know. We all know how to get back home. If you leave and you go out, you know how to get back home.
That's right.
And I feel that's us. Love is home.
Duane.
I would say love is essence, sacred essence. It's the building block of all of creation. It's all of us at our core. You know, like if you take a microscope into each and every one of us, you will see love molecules. That is who we are. It's who we truly are. And it is something that we expand into and ascend into, but it is the most natural thing in the world, you know? And whenever, like Jonathan
And
said, whenever you're lost, you can always come
yeah,
back because it's who you are.
that's right.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I would say, and you guys have heard me say this probably a million times now, I went all the way, died and came back.
Mm,
And it is that love is present for me.
mhm,
Love is present. Love is here. Love is now. Love is present. So always I encourage people, when they say like, how do you experience that love that you felt on the other side? And I say, you gotta be present. You cannot experience love without being present, because love is actually present. It's giving all of yourself, everything you have, all of your senses, all of your attention, everything. Love is present. And when you share presence with somebody, you experience it all, and so love is present, love is here, love is now. That's what it is. I want to thank all of you, especially Janie and Kesley, for joining me on every single episode. Regardless of what was happening in life, they showed up, and they were just the most amazing sisters to have on here to do this with me, to share so freely of their life and their experience of their love. We talked about some really touchy things. We really opened up on here and we shared honestly with our experiences. And I just want to thank them for being so vulnerable and honest and sharing. Janie, shared Russell with us. And also yes, Russell. And also I want to thank Duane and Jonathan and Morgan for joining us today and coming on. Now, behind the scenes, we have Dar, who is Kesley's husband and my husband also, who, although they're not seen, they're very much a part. Like I said to my hubby, don't you want to come? He goes, when they see you, they see me. When they see you, they see me. Whatever you say is what I'm gonna say. What?
This
So
is
I'm like,
it.
well, you right. So he's here, right? Minus the hair, just bald my head, and I guess that's him. But and some beard and all that. But it is what it is. So we want to thank our wonderful husband. We want to thank also Jonathan's lovely wife, the salsa dancer. You know what I mean? So just love, just more love, more presence. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in and who has been watching these episodes. Let us know if you would like to hear more about love. Let us know if there's an episode or something that you'd like us to expand on. Whatever it is, let us know. But whatever you do, just keep loving and keep expanding. Keep expanding.
Yes.
Keep okay. So
I
love you
have
guys.
two things
Oh,
really
you have
quick
two things.
before we
Go ahead.
go.
Okay, okay.
First of all, I just wanted to appreciate the people that are in the chat. They gave a lot of beautiful responses. Like
Nice.
someone, Henosis responded to, what would you say to your younger self? I would say always honor and love yourself. You are enough.
Yeah.
And then to what love is, one said love is beautiful, love is unconditional, love is magical. So
Wow.
thank you guys for participating with us and chiming in the chat. It's really appreciated. And then lastly, and I know we're going to put this in the description below, but there was a request for the websites of each of the presenters today. If you guys even want to just quickly verbally say like your website so people know where to find you, that'll be great.
So probably the best place for me is Instagram. So it's Kesley Spirit Guide. And my website is kesleytweed.com. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, you'll be able to
Always
find
trying to
me as well. I'm sorry.
No,
Janie,
go ahead.
okay, yeah. Janie Charlo, or nurse practitioner _ hired on IG. And in my bio, you'll be able to find my link tree with all my other things out there.
Yeah. Oh, just a quick thing. I have on every episode, I have Kesley and Janie's link tree and so on attached. It's always in the description. So you guys could click on their link tree in the description. I will also be adding anyone else who wants to share. There's like Russell, Morgan, Jonathan, Duane stuff. So it's all going to be in the description. Look for it down there. But I do want you guys to continue this verbally sharing it. So go ahead, Morgan.
Instagram, you can find me under Morgan O. Smith. I think that's what it is. You'll find me there. But if you pull it up, you'll see my face. Just click on that. Website wise, of course, I just started a nonprofit, and that is bodhicare.org. So that's Bodhi, that's BODHI care.org.
Jonathan?
So you can catch me at my hypnosis site at dreammakers.com. Dreammakershypnosis.com. You can get me at Instagram at Knowledge Awakens.
Perfect. Duane?
You can find me on Instagram, Lighthouse, LIGHTHAUS.I, on Instagram, and then you can find my other stuff from there.
Wonderful. And you already know, dream_manifestation_specialist. That's me. Most of you already follow me on there, but I love you guys. Thank you, Duane, for
And
doing
I
that.
am abama.com.
And yes, it's all under. Go ahead,
And
Russell.
Russell, yes, Russell, go.
Yeah, Instagram Chef Russ 7 and Facebook Russell Bruce, 2 S's, 2 L's on Russell Bruce. I have the same picture on each one. And our YouTube channel for our podcast, Matters of the Heart and Soul.
Yeah, wonderful. Kesley, you have a podcast channel also on
We
YouTube.
do.
don't you?
Yeah, it's the Ascended Life Podcast. So you can find us on YouTube. And I've also got the link in my bio on Instagram. So would love for people to check that out. And our nonprofit is linked from there as well.
Okay, wonderful. So, are we good? I keep closing up on it.
We're good.
We're good to go. Thank you to everyone who always, like I said, watches and participates. Thank you for all the subscribers, everyone who shared these videos. Please continue to do so. Thank you for liking and all the good stuff. We will see you again next Sunday with something special. Okay? So see you next Sunday at 7:30. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Well,